Hey YouTube, in this deck profile I'm going to be doing a video on the Tsukuyomi OTT build. So I finally built this deck. Back when Tsukuyomi was new in like the olden days of Vanguard, the old school days, never had this card, never built this deck. Fast forward to standard format and I finally put it together. Now this deck is pretty pricey, surprisingly. Like this one, if you wanted to build Tsukuyomi, this is definitely the non-budget friendly OTT deck. So this is probably the most expensive one, but also probably the most consistent, the best one overall. And Tsukuyomi has always been relevant in Vanguard for a very long time, actually, up until, I want to say, Stride. I mean, it was good. I don't remember how it did in Legion format, but it was pretty decent in Stride, I think, for a while, at least in the early days, like back when the Cross Legion was rampant and before Gear Chronicle became OP, before Time Leap, those type of areas. I'm trying to remember, like, although I don't really remember too well because I never had the deck, so I don't really remember. Susano was a thing, but anyway, I don't know how it does in premium or anything, but we're gonna go over it in standard. So basically, it's the one OTT deck that actually runs quite a few Battle Sisters too, so that's why I'm using the Fromage mat. But anyway, for Goddess of the Full Moon Tsukuyomi, so obviously it's Tsukuyomi, you're going to run 4 of this. This is the main Vanguard. Backup Vanguards could vary, but I'm running CEO Amaterasu F3 because, I don't know, like, both cards are old school. I mean, Imperial Daughter doesn't really do a whole lot because typically the only time you'll end up riding CEO or your other grade 3 Vanguard, for instance, not Tsukuyomi, is if you never had Tsukuyomi, for some reason the ride chain never worked for you, and you have to ride this. It's better to ride this than to ride Imperial Daughter, because Imperial Daughter as a first grade 3 doesn't really do a whole lot. So obviously it makes sense to run this, because this thing can at least stand alone for a couple turns, and it has a rear guard effect as well, so if you have to call it down as a rear guard. So 3 of that. 3 of that. You could run 4 if you don't have this card. But this card, I've always had a bunch of these. So Victoria's Deer, I'm running 2 of them as a finisher. Just like in my Imperial Daughter deck. Or even if you're just running CEO with this, like as a budget build, a budget OTT deck, that would be the way to go. But this is a late game card. You call it down to Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, and Soul Blast 2 grade 3s, discard a card from your hand, look at 7 cards from the top, reveal up to 2 crits from them, and then put those 2 on the top of the deck in any order. Shuffle the rest of the cards looked at, put them on the bottom of the deck, and 6 of your units get 10k power. So it pretty much guarantees you to get double crit and power of your entire field. So all the units, Vanguard and Rear Guards, get plus 10k power. So that's definitely like a final turn effect. We run 2 of it, because just in case you damage check one, you can still essentially draw into the other one. Unless you damage check both of them, and then that play is pretty much gone. For grade 2s, 4 Goddess of the Halfmoon Tsukuyomi. So you gotta run it. You gotta run the whole Tsukuyomi lineup basically, and including the starter. Like if you don't run the starter, it isn't even gonna work. So that's how strict this deck is. So basically, for this, it also has a continuous effect of during the battle. If you don't know how Tsukuyomi works, basically the deck is focused on checking the top 5 cards of the deck at the beginning of the ride phase to keep searching. Now this one, once you get to grade 3, it doesn't do that anymore, and instead it becomes a draw engine. Whereas the grade 2 and grade 1 is helping you search top 5 search for a Tsukuyomi. That's what you're trying to do. You want to superior ride them. And during the battle, that it attack the Vanguard if you have Crescent Moon. Basically, if you have the grade 1 in the Soul, this unit gets 3k power. So that's a Vanguard or Rearguard effect. So next, like I said earlier, there are quite a number of Battle Sisters in here. So I'm running 4 Battle Sister Macron because you're going to be looking at your deck a lot. So it's natural to run her in here over Silent Tom. You could still run Silent Tom, but I am running another Battle Sister instead of Silent Tom. So I'm running 4 Battle Sister Choquette. So this card has a Vanguard Rearguard effect. When played, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 5. So it's nice because it complements the check top 5 that the Tsukuyomi ride chain does. So this just gives you another way to check the top 5. Reveal a grade 3, put it on the top of the deck, shuffle the rest of the deck. So it works in nice ways in the sense that it can search you Victorious Deer and set it up so you get it to your hand on that drive check. It can help you search for Tsukuyomi, the grade 3 if you need it, or CEO if you're horribly grade stuck, something like that. So that's why we run it at 4. It's just pretty consistent in here compared to if you were to run it in, like, say, Imperial Dot or some other deck. It wouldn't really fit too well in there, so I feel like Tsukuyomi is the way to go if you're going to run this at all. Otherwise, you could just run Silent Tom. For grade 1s, 4, Goddess of the Crescent Moon, Tsukuyomi, so you got to run those. This only has a Vanguard effect at the beginning of the ride phase. Basically, you have to run the new starter, or the second OTT starter, which is the bird. People call it the bluebird, or bird, the bird. Basically, if what is the name? I think it's what is it? Ichibyoshi. Yeah. So if that's in the soul, look at top 5 on the top of the deck. Put one from them. So yeah, again, it's like it's doing the whole ride chain. Look for a Tsukuyomi. So, and the thing is, if you don't have the parts, like I feel like this one. Yeah, this one doesn't require them in the soul. But its other effect does, and then it can, if you discard Full Moon, you can ride it. Yeah, that's right. So it doesn't look backward. The grade 2 looks forward into the ride chain, and then this one looks backwards. So this one requires you to have the starter to look at 5. Next, I'm running 3 White Hair of Banaba. So it fits in here really well because you end up with a lot of. So when you boost a grade 3 Vanguard, you can put a card from your hand into the soul and draw a card. So it just keeps you cycling through the deck. And then what can end up happening in this deck is, I'm trying to remember. Yes, you end up, it's similar to like other, like a CDO, for instance. Like you end up putting stuff, you put your triggers on the bottom of the deck. Unless you draw into your triggers, you end up putting them into the bottom of the deck. So that in the, I guess like Act 3, if I can even refer to endgame as that, you basically start hitting triggers a lot, or you kind of know when they're going to come up because you'll start knowing what you've already seen, and then you'll be drawing into cards like this or some stuff that you're going to be calling to the field. Occasionally you're drawn to a critical trigger or something, so yeah. Next we're running 3 Cou Omegas, because Cou Omegas helps you. You don't need to cycle through the decks. You don't really want to run Farful Omegas in here because Tsukuyomi already does enough of putting things on the bottom of the deck. So Cou Omegas can help you set up, like, if a critical trigger was the second card on the top, so you can kind of move it up, or if you need to, you know, it helps you. You can play strategically also with this card, because if you know you can't guard your opponent and they're going to rush you if they excel, for instance, and you have a heal on the top 2, you could, and you're on, like, let's say you're on your grade 2 or grade 1, you could attack, like, you could set the crit on the top, and you could put the heal on the bottom, or you could even, like, if you know you can't heal because you're at 0 damage or something, you could even, like, make it so that the heal would be what you damage check when they attack you, so that you could heal or block their rush. So stuff like that. I'm just giving you guys examples of how OTT players tend to use Cou Omegas in a defensive way, rather than just like searching, trying to like stack. But that's essentially what it does. And then the last grade 1 I'm running is Penny Omegas, because with all the like looking and setup, you tend to, like, on the turns where you end up drive checking triggers, like for instance on this play, or like with using this to set up on the top or the bottom of the deck a critical, for instance, it works really well with that, because it gains 5k every time you check a trigger. So just pretty good booster. So that's the grade 1 lineup. For the triggers, draw Sentinels, you gotta run Mist. Otherwise it's 12 crit, and I mean that also can work, but then you're gonna lose out on running some of your tech cards. Like you won't be able to run this, and you'll probably only have like 1 Cou Omegas as a tech card or something. So yeah, not a whole lot of space. It's pretty packed in here. So 4 crits, 4 draws, 8 criticals, just all from the BTO1. all this stuff, the heals. And then you gotta run Godhawk Ichibyoshi. You gotta run it because the grade 1 requires you to run it. So it's funny because it's like, I think I'm trying to think, is there another deck out there that requires you to actually run the newer starter? I really don't think there is one right now. But anyway, guys, that's my updated OTT deck. So this and my Magus deck are currently them. I don't have Imperial Daughter anymore. So it's basically this and Magus. And Magus is my 12 crit, and this is my, like, you know, the one that has the Sentinels. So anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed that deck profile on Tsukuyomi. This is definitely a fun deck to play. Like I said earlier, it's probably one of the more competitive OTT decks that exist in Standard right now. So if you're interested in OTT, definitely try it out. If you want to go budget, just go Magus. It's pretty easy to build them right now. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks.